But the two big segments on the show were these next two, and we'll start with CM Punk, who came out for an interview with Tony Schiavone, and he had the red bag with him in his hand. He brought up the Wembley Stadium show. He asked if he was the first person to mention it. The answer is yes. Yes, you are. He questioned if he would be on the show. He said, maybe we'll find out later tonight. Spoiler, we didn't. But he said it has a lot to do with what's in the bag. I thought I was watching a Sean Oliver U-shoot when he used to play What's in the Bag. I thought Punk was going to pull out a bottle of Jack Daniels and a syringe, but as he mentioned later in the promo, he's straight edge. So he would not have any of those items in the bag. He would have freshly baked muffins in the bag. He spoke about responsibility and how you have to wake up sometimes and do the responsible thing because you're the responsible adult in the room, which got a rise out of the crowd. You hear that, Matt and Nick? Yeah, that got a rise out of the crowd. Punk said Ricky Starks seems to be mistaking his kindness for weakness. He said he told Starks in the back that he wasn't going to be nice anymore. He said the truth doesn't care if you're nice, it's about being right or wrong. And then he pulled out the AEW World Championship belt that he won from Jon Moxley last September at Brawl Out. He said this is the real World Championship, not because he deserves it, but because he earned it. And nobody has beaten him for it. He said it even had his name on it, which it did. It has a nameplate on the bottom that says CM Punk. He says it has his blood on it. And now, has his blood on it. It might have one of the Bucks' blood on it. It might have Kenny Omega's blood on it too, when the vampire took a bite out of his arm. And now he says it would have his symbol on it as well. And he pulled out a can of spray. I thought he was joining the Outcasts here for a second, only his spray paint was black. It was not green. But he pulled out a can of spray paint. He spray painted a giant black X over the center plate. I would say Elon Musk is having his attorneys draw up the cease and desist as we speak, but he probably fired them too. So Punk said this X has represented him going all the way back to 1997. It means he's straight edge, and straight edge means I'm better than you. And Punk said the title is his, it belongs on Collision. He called himself the real world champion, like he was fucking 1991 Ric Flair out here, and he held up the belt for all to see. So out comes Ricky Starks with a microphone, and he says, he stops on stage, he goes, I need a proper entrance. And he told the crowd, pretend like he didn't see me. And he walks backstage. Then they played his music and the crowd gave him a big ovation. Nigel McGuinness on commentary acted totally surprised that Ricky Starks was here. I thought that was a nice touch. Starks gets in the ring. He says, in their match, he got Punk before Punk got him. And he said Punk would have done the exact same thing that he did. He called himself the real world champion. He called himself the face of Collision, and the crowd cheered. Punk asked Ricky if he's the face of Collision or the face of cheating. Punk asked him if Starks beat him or did the referees beat him. Which is something I can relate to, by the way, having played 2K23. I can tell you it is most definitely the referees. Starks said that he could have Stevie Wonder as the referee. He would still win. Punk said, it sounds like you want a title shot. He said he didn't blame the referees because it's a thankless job. But if he's going to face Ricky again, then he needed extra eyeballs. And Starks said that that was fine, because it's no secret that Punk doesn't have any friends around here. He said Punk could dig into his past if he wants. He can bring out Julio De Niro or Dave Prazak, or he can go to Stanford and get somebody. He said he doesn't care, because if he did it once, he can do it twice. And Punk said that he anticipated this might happen, so he made some phone calls. And he did find someone from his past. And he asked Ricky if he wanted a shot at the champion. Ricky said that he did. They shook hands to make it official. And Tony Schiavone said the match would take place next week on Collision. And Punk told Schiavone, you want to do the honors? And Schiavone said, I'd love to. And he announced at that point that the special referee for their match next week will be Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. See, that could backfire on Punk. You get two Rickies in the ring at the same time. I don't know, man. I don't know that I would trust Steamboat to be completely fair and impartial. Starks looked thrown off by the announcement. Ian Riccaboni on commentary said that Steamboat is the most straight and narrow athlete that he has ever seen. One of the only major stars in history, it's true. If you think about it, for all the places that he worked and as long of a career as he had, one of the only, if not the only major star who never worked heel. Because who could boo Ricky Steamboat? You know, he wanted to turn heel in WWE in his second run. Even Pat Patterson told him no. The people would never boo him. Even if you were under a mask, they wouldn't boo you. So this was a very newsworthy segment. I enjoyed this a lot. Ricky Starks is a star. If you don't see it by now, I don't think you ever will. Punk brought back his old straight edge catchphrase that he used when he was a heel. And he was definitely playing subtle heel at points during this segment, but it wasn't anything overt. Starks got cheered for pretty much everything he said, but he was so full of himself, you would think that he was the one who was supposed to be the heel here. So they're blurring the lines with these two. It could go either way in their match next week, but the fans are definitely going to be rooting for Ricky in that match. Steamboat and Punk, they have history together. They feuded in Ring of Honor in Punk's early days there. And they were even tag team partners together in a big 10-man tag on Raw the night after WrestleMania 25. Steamboat is officially the outside the ring enforcer. Hence the Punk mention of having an extra set of eyes during the match, so he won't be the referee of record in the ring, at least not until the inevitable ref bump, when he has to climb into the ring, right? I think we could see that coming. And now we have, just like that, a second world title on Collision. It was very strange having MJF in the same building and not having him come out to confront Punk when Punk pulled that belt out of the bag. But they're not working together yet. I guess Tony Khan wants to hold off on the match, which he should. That's clearly the direction. So Starks winning the belt next week is very unlikely because the strongest possible match right now that they could do. Now you could say, oh, it's Punk and Omega, right? Punk and the Elite. Well, that's not going to happen. So let's be realistic about what the biggest potential match right now is for CM Punk. Is CM Punk against MJF. And the minute that Punk loses in a title match, you've ruined the entire story. The story is, nobody has beaten me for this belt. And until someone pins me or submits me, I am the real world's champion. You can't have Punk pull the belt out of the bag one week and then have him lose it the very next week. That's not going to happen. But it's a big main event for them to put up against SummerSlam. I don't know that it's going to work as far as retaining their live audience, but it's a ballsy move. And it may not have been Tony Khan's move to make, but it's a ballsy move, keeping Collision head-to-head with SummerSlam. All Out feels too soon for Punk and MJF to do champion against champion, especially on a one-week build with All In coming the week before. I think they should hold off on doing that match as long as they possibly can, and in the meantime, they could fill months of television on Collision with Punk defending his title against different people. Samoa Joe, Jay White, maybe Andrade, Miro. Jay White would be a great candidate to actually take the title from him eventually, but the first 6 to 12 months of this show should be Punk defending that belt until we get the big match and the big champion against champion showdown. You know, from day one of Collision, when Punk came back, he had that red bag with him. That should be the main story of this show well into next year. Who can beat CM Punk for that belt? And when we do get the match to decide who the champion is, it should be MJF or whoever is on the other side of the ring actually winning the title. FTR continues to be the MVPs of this show. The last few weeks, you look at their body of work, the match of the year candidates that they had with Bullet Club Gold, including the second match, the hour-long match, one of the best matches in the history of the promotion. Last night, they had an excellent match against MJF and Adam Cole for the AEW Tag Team titles. Cole and MJF, they won the blind eliminator to earn the right to challenge for the titles. The people wanted that double clothesline. They did not get the double clothesline. And in the end, MJF saved Adam Cole. He saved his partner by pushing him out of the way of a shatter machine, and Dax Harwood, who MJF has been goofing off on in his promos, is the one who rolled up MJF and pinned him to retain the titles. The only surprise to me was no Roderick Strong. I thought he would either cost Cole and MJF the titles, either here or in the eventual match between MJF and Cole, which I still think it'll probably happen there. I think Roddy will play a role in that match. But he didn't play a role here at all. He wasn't on the show at all. And they pinned MJF. Something we never see on TV. He's very protected. He doesn't wrestle very often to begin with. But they pinned the world champion. And I think that should lead to Dax Harwood getting a title match with MJF now on TV because he pinned him. If you're going to pin the world champion on TV, whoever does the pinning in that match should be in line for a championship match. I don't care that this was a tag team match. Doesn't matter that it was a tag match and it wasn't an eliminator. You could do MJF against Dax Harwood in a singles match on TV between now and All In. That's a television main event right there. Because I'm not normally a fan of pinning your champion on TV. And if you're going to do it, then it should at least lead to a title match against that person. But it was clearly done as part of this story that they're telling, because MJF, after he got pinned, he was despondent when the match was over. He kept telling Cole, he was sitting in the corner and he's telling Cole, I blew it. Cole handed him the big Burberry belt. He tried to cheer him up and told him, you're the world champion, man. Cole said, I love you. Then he turned around. He went off into the corner. He played to the crowd. And in the background, we could see MJF. He gets up. He's rearing back like he's going to clobber Cole with this belt when he turns around. Cole is still in the corner. He's got his back turned. But like a sixth sense, he can sense what's about to happen. He puts his arms out. He was going to give him a free shot. He says, do what you got to do. Do what you have to do. Instead, though, MJF threw the belt aside. Cole turned around and the two of them hugged to a big ovation. The people can't get enough of Adam Cole and MJF as best friends. He already promised Cole a shot at the AEW World title. He did it on Wednesday. He said, I know how much this means to you, so I just want you to know I'm going to give you a shot at the AEW World Championship. So they found a way to do MJF against Adam Cole, either at All In or at All Out, without actually having to break them up. The breakup is coming, but it doesn't have to happen now. It doesn't have to happen for at least another month, if not longer, because they're not doing a turn to result in the title match. We already know they're doing a title match because he promised one to his friend. So I love this match. I love the post-match stuff. I love that Tony didn't break them up yet. But Roderick Strong is going to play a role in the eventual betrayal. The only question is who betrays who? Does Roddy betray Cole, but Cole and MJF remain friends? Do Roddy and Cole both turn on MJF and we get a double turn? I thought Nigel made a very interesting point on commentary last night that if you look through Adam Cole's history, he would be the least trustworthy of the two of them, given some of the things that he's done in his career. He's not wrong. Right? He turned against his own Undisputed Era partners. He once tried to kick the Young Bucks out of Bullet Club. It's not like Adam Cole's hands are dirty or are clean here. They're dirtier than MJF's. Does Roddy turn on Cole and side with MJF? Probably not. After MJF called him a default caw on Wednesday night, which was the line of the fucking week. It's funny because it's true. Or do they go the predictable route, and at the end of all of this, MJF turns on Cole and he delivers the usual suspects line that we've heard him use before. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled is convincing you that he didn't exist, right? That would be the most predictable way for them to go. There's so many ways they could go with this. But I saw that Richard Holliday was backstage at Collision last night. Now, I don't know that he has signed anything with AEW or if he was just visiting. For those who don't know, Richard Holliday wrestled for MLW, and he was part of a faction with MJF and Alex Hammerstone called the Dynasty. He also held the MLW tag team titles with MJF, so they've been tag team champions before. And his career was starting to take off last year when he was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. And he went through chemotherapy, and he announced in May that his cancer was in remission. So he's a free agent right now, and he's somebody who has a history with MJF. The idea of getting Holliday and maybe even eventually signing Alex Hammerstone and forming a new version of the Dynasty, they probably couldn't call it that, but forming a new version of the Dynasty, maybe a new version of the Pinnacle, with those three is an intriguing idea to me. Now, we saw MJF lead the Pinnacle once before, and they ended that prematurely. There was still gas in the tank, and they just ended it. His leading his own heel trio could be fun. You know, maybe even doing so against Adam Cole and Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly if they ever get Kyle back. The problem is, that's not looking too good. I don't know when or even if Kyle O'Reilly will be back in the ring. But In any event, we'll see what happens with Holiday. Right now, all we know is that he was backstage. We don't know anything more than that. One person we will not be seeing for a while, though, on Collision, and it looked like they were going to use Collision as a way to sort of reboot his push, is Scorpio Sky. Scorpio Sky just made his Collision debut only a few weeks ago. He worked his first match in a year, almost a year to the day. He wrestled Action Andretti. He was scheduled to wrestle Kip Sabian on Rampage this week, but the match never took place. Commander filled in for him, and Tony Khan came out during the tapings on Wednesday and announced that the match wasn't happening because Scorpio Sky is injured. And I heard that report, and I'm like, how the hell did this guy injure himself again? He had one match, and that was like 3 weeks ago. Well, according to Fightful, Sean Ross Sapp said that he was told it was a freak accident, and nobody knows how long he's going to be out for, but he was seen on crutches at the show. I mean, that's just bad luck, is what that is. Out for a year, comes back, wrestles one match, and a freak accident puts him back on the shelf. I don't know what else you call that other than bad luck. So it looks like we're not going to be seeing him for a while. Hopefully he doesn't need surgery, but we don't even know what the nature of the injury is. We just know that apparently he was on crutches. If you're on crutches, that's usually not a good sign. So yeah, we're not going to be seeing him for a while.